Hello, everyone. Gary Laubach, Mike Joseph. We are behind the mic. We're getting ready for our first home game of the season. It should be a good one against the Columbia Lions. That's a 12:30 kickoff. Mike, coming away from the big ball game down at Duke, I think you and I both feel the same way. We didn't play all that badly.
Yeah, we were texting back and forth the whole game. I thought Lafayette showed up exactly what they wanted to do. They played great. I thought in the first quarter they showed that they belonged. Impressed with Dean DeNoble, impressed with that offensive line. I thought they did a great job. A few calls here that I would have had some problems with back and forth. Not saying Lafayette's going to win that ball game, but they certainly showed up what they wanted to do, and John Troxell made a point.
And those two calls, without question, changed Lafayette's momentum. They certainly had an opportunity to maybe go into the locker room down 7, maybe even tied. A couple of calls that even the Duke announcers agreed that they should have gone Lafayette's way, and they did not. But that game's in the past. I think we played well enough to still have plenty of confidence going into the rest of the season. In fact, maybe a little more confidence than we had before that ball game.
Yeah, I think if you say let's come out of this first two games 1-1, I think that's perfect. 0-2 would have been bad, but you beat Sacred Heart, you come back, you play really well at Duke. The kids had a great time down there. But now the season starts. Now you get into Columbia, Monmouth, teams that you need to put up W's against, and certainly against a team in Columbia who hasn't played a game yet. You have 125 snaps under your belt, both offensively and defensively. You're getting somewhat of an established quarterback. The running game's there with Curtis. The offensive line is gelling. Like you said, I thought Olmstead and the interior played great. You're getting some production out of the wide receivers, and a defense is flying around.
Not only is Columbia playing their first game, but they're playing their first game under their new head coach, Mike Fabish. He is an interim head coach. And, Mike, we can't start this without talking a bit about Al Bagnoli. What a job he did at Columbia. He resurrected their program after doing great work at Penn. I think 23 years there, 7 years at Columbia. Al Bagnoli didn't back away, however, until mid-August. So it hasn't been a lot of time for Mike Fabish to put this all together.
No, it hasn't, and I think it surprised Mike a little bit, but I know Al very well, and I coached against him when I was at Villanova and here at Lafayette. He's a legend. He really is, and if he needs to step away for health reasons, that's perfectly fine. But to talk about a coach taking over in August, this wasn't spring ball, this wasn't June. The kids know Mike. But at the same time, he wants to put his stamp on it. He wants to create a culture that's under his image. But the kids seem to have hit the ground running. I've heard nothing but good things about their quarterback, their running back. They have players coming back defensively. So this is going to be a test for Lafayette, but one I think they need to stand up to.
Mike Fabish has been with Al Bagnoli for a number of years. He was there at Penn. He played at Penn, and now he comes over. He certainly knows the program, as he's been with Al Bagnoli at Columbia ever since the program did begin. All right, we look at this ball club 6-4 last year, first ball game, and we're never quite sure who has the advantage. Does Lafayette have the advantage with 2 under their belt, or does Columbia have the advantage because Lafayette hasn't seen them?
Yeah, I think the Leopards have the true advantage here right now. They've gone through the season so far with 2 games under their belt. They've hit. They've tackled. They've run special teams. They've gotten a chance to see what works and what doesn't, putting game plans together. So they've had 2 weeks to prepare for this, and I think they're at the advantage. And the second advantage is they're at home. The first Lafayette game at home of 3 in a row. So they'll be home through the whole month of September. They're not here at all in October. But I think the advantage goes to the Leopards, and I think the advantage goes to the Leopard defense for flying around and an offensive line that's coming together.
All right, let's take a look at the Columbia offense. They are led by 2 quarterbacks, Caden Bell and Joe Green. Both of them won 3 games last year. So of their 6 victories, they kind of split the wins. Jaden Green got himself injured, shoulder injury about midseason, and that's when Joe Green took over. And I think we're going to probably see both quarterbacks on Saturday.
I think we will. And Green's more of a runner, a guy that's going to get out there on the perimeter and show you a little bit of ability to escape, get out, extend plays like that. You're not going to see that as much from Bell. But they have a good stable of running backs that can really run the football. And again, with the guys they have coming back, they had a winning season last year. Lafayette hasn't had a winning season in a long time, so that's something to establish as well. But this is a Columbia team that's going to come down here hungry. They're going to come down here under a new coach. And they've always presented a problem for Lafayette early in games. So you got to get on them early. If you look at Lafayette's record against Columbia here, 14 wins, 0 losses, and 1 tie. And I played in a couple of those. We've always had Columbia's number, but this is a different era.
as we look at this, they scored 27 points a game last year, so their offense has been effective. They've got most of their skill position people back. They've got almost all of their offensive line back. They should be formidable on the offensive side of the football. They gave up 21 points a game last year, but their defense also looks solid. This is going to be what is always an Ivy League ball club against the Patriot League. Yep. It's always a tough matchup.
Yeah, it's always a tough matchup, whether you're going against Princeton or Penn or Columbia. We haven't played Columbia in a long time, but again, it's early in the game for Lafayette. They have played well early in both these early games that they played, especially last week. They've got to have a heck of a lot of confidence coming out of Duke. A wonderful trip they made down there. They showed up, they played, they tackled, they did everything they needed to do. And I think Mike Elko for Duke walked off that field and gave John Troxell a handshake and said, listen, you guys showed up, you did what you needed to do, and you presented a lot of problems for us. That's what Lafayette has to do. They have to carry this into this week and jump on this team early, get an early lead, and then play with their defense.
And how about a pat on the back to Mike Elko? He was certainly a class act at the end of the football game in that one. Mike Elko, he's got his team on the rise. Let's hope Duke wins the rest of their ball games the rest of the year. Defensively, this team gave up only 98 yards rushing last year, 255 passing. 7 of their top 10 tacklers are back.
Yeah, they all are back. There's not anybody that really kind of stands out, but they play well collectively as a team. They're going to fly around. They're going to kind of try to create turnovers, especially against Dean DeNoble. I'm not sure if we're going to get Ryan back off the concussion. But they're going to try to disturb Lafayette early, get some turnovers early, get some short fields, and maybe get on top if they can. But again, the other part about this is what we're going to talk about in Inside the Huddle is special teams. Special teams have to be better. They have been okay for Lafayette, poor last year. They have to win a game or two this year.
They were a bit better last week, I thought. I thought they really did a decent job last week. Jamar Curtis, that's 2 good games in a row for Jamar. As we mentioned, we're not quite sure who's going to be at quarterback. Offensive line, great improvement, I thought, from week 1 to week 2.
Yeah, they were phenomenal. The interior 3, I thought Ryder Langsdale also played really well. We'll have him today for Media Day. They established themselves as a team that can hold people off, maybe not get to the second level, but give Jamar Curtis those little areas to run. Conyers was pretty good as well. I'd like to see more of Najee Adams. He's a bigger back. You talk about that 4th down and 1 that we came up short on. I think you need that bigger back. You need to create those 3rd down and 1s and get those first downs so you can stay on the field. But that offensive line is coming together, and they're only going to get better.
Marco Olivas, I thought, flew all over the field at Duke. He's really getting himself back to the Marco Olivas that we all know. 2 very good, steady football games. Sekou White has kind of risen the cream, rises to the top. He certainly has been the cream. I think he has 11 tackles in both ball games, in each one of them. So a problem here. Is the problem not knowing much what Columbia is going to do? But I think we actually do know what they're going to do. Mike Fabish isn't going to be that much different than what Al Bagnoli did.
No, I think they're going to try to establish the run. A lot of Ivy League teams, if we go back and we look, they tried to establish the run wide on Lafayette or get the ball out of their hands quick. Remember Princeton last year. So I think they'll take a page out of that book. They'll try to get Lafayette on the perimeter and maybe try to get some blockers out in front, some quick stuff, maybe to get away from that defensive line and those linebackers, get the ball away from Marco, get the ball away from some of the other guys in there. But Marco played well, but the linebackers didn't tackle well last week, I didn't think. Now, it's a different level of football, so they're going to be up for it. I know Marco's going to be up for it. I know Billy Schaefer's probably a little upset that they didn't tackle as well as they should have, and especially in that secondary, they made some plays. But, Columbia is going to come at you from a bunch of different ways, and if you go back and look at some of the ways Ivy League teams have attacked us, it's on the perimeter with athletes.
I only have one request for Columbia. Don't wear light blue numbers on white shirts. No. That's exactly what they did the last time. I think I was back in like 2010, I think, somewhere around there. All kinds of problems reading their numbers. Don't do that to us. Again, Mike and I will be in the booth. We invite you to join us 12:30 ESPN Plus and on Astound Television.